The Gardner-Webb women's basketball team is coming off a solid 2016-2017 season. The Running Bulldogs finished 12-19 overall, with wins over Appalachian State and wins in nationally televised games against Western Carolina and Liberty. But the Dogs struggled to close games out at times, losing 5 games by 3 points or less, including a season-ending 54-51 loss to Radford in the second round of the Big South Conference Tournament. Coach Rick Reeves, who enters into his 14th season with the Running Bulldogs, says that the team's outlook remains the same: win the Big South Conference no matter how last season went.
Well, we always want to win the conference, and we want to go to the NCAA tournament. That's our goal every year. And preseason we were picked 7th, but I told the young ladies, I said, last time we won it, we were picked 6th, and the team that won it last year was 7th. So that doesn't mean anything to us. Practice has been great. Players' attitude's been great. The young ladies are working really hard, and I'm really proud of them.
The Running Bulldogs have a veteran team this season, as 4 of their 5 starters returned from last year's squad, including second-team All-Big South selection Tiara Huntsman. The senior out of Connersville, Indiana, was the team's leading scorer last season, averaging 15.2 points a game. Huntsman also led the Running Bulldogs with 62 steals last season, good enough for 6th in the Big South Conference. Huntsman says it was an honor to be named as the representative from Gardner-Webb on the All-Conference rankings.
I mean, it's an honor, to have somebody from Gardner-Webb have that, makes our team look good. I mean, I'm just privileged. Teammates help me.
Also returning to the floor for the Running Bulldogs will be Savannah Plintovich, who averaged 39% from 3 and averaged 3 assists per game. Her twin sister Carly Plintovich will return as well, but will miss the beginning of the season due to off-season surgery. Carly also shot well from behind the arc at 36% and finished the season with 37 assists. Returning inside for the Running Bulldogs is 6'2" senior Celia Tibbs. Tibbs led the team last season with 19 blocks last year. Alexis Hill also returned for the Running Bulldogs, as Hill was second on the team in assists, finishing with 66 last season. Kaisha Stanford returned to the court for the Running Bulldogs, as she was second on the team with 32 steals last season. Morgan Pointer and Karina Wygand returned for their second seasons at Gardner-Webb. Pointer shot 71% from the free throw line last season, while Wygand saw limited action. Coach Reeves says that the depth returning to the team will help them win some of those close games they were unable to close out last year.
I think that's going to help us, with the playing the close games and finishing them out. And we were right there. Our season could have been just so much different with those 6 wins. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
There are some new faces on the Gardner-Webb roster as well. Katie Stainer is a sophomore transfer from Southeastern Illinois College. The Brisbane, Australia native averaged 5.5 points per game and 2.9 assists per game for the Falcons last season. The Running Bulldogs also signed a quartet of freshmen that will look to help Gardner-Webb to a conference title this season. Taylor Kelly of Claremont, Georgia, averaged 14.9 points, 2.9 steals, and 2.1 assists per game throughout her senior season, which also saw her surpass the 1,000-point mark for her high school career. Nia Lee is a freshman out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, who led her team to the Georgia High School Association Class 6A Girls Basketball Tournament semifinals for the first time since 2007 and 2017, with her team finishing the year with a 24-5 record. Faith Hoover is a freshman out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and averaged 9 points per game and 5.3 rebounds per game throughout her senior season, and earned the 2016-2017 North Carolina High School Athletic Association 4A Cap 8 Conference All-Conference Honorable Mention honors. The Running Bulldogs also add Alexis Houston out of Roanoke, Virginia. Houston averaged 12.8 points and 7.5 rebounds per game throughout her senior season, and took part in the 2017 Virginia High School Coaches Association All-Star Basketball Game. Gardner-Webb will also add sophomore Gabrielle Campanegro to the roster, but she will have to sit out the 2017-2018 season due to NCAA transfer rules. At LIU Brooklyn, Campanegro averaged 3.3 points and 4.4 rebounds per game for the Blackbirds. The team is a tight-knit group, and they are very motivated by the low preseason ranking, as the Bulldogs were voted to finish 7th in the Big South Conference preseason poll.
Yeah, we're not bothered by that at all. We're actually, it's something for us to prove people wrong, go out there and give it our all. So
the women's basketball team faces a daunting non-conference schedule. The Dogs will start off the season at home to Division III Pfeiffer on November 10th. The Falcons finished just 8-19 last season, but defeated Division I North Carolina Central last year 50-47. The Dogs will then travel up to Lexington, Kentucky for the Matthew Mitchell Classic, as they'll take on Kentucky University on November 12th. The Wildcats fell to eventual national champion South Carolina in the SEC tournament last season and hosted the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament, defeating Belmont 73-70 before falling to Ohio State 82-68. After that, Gardner-Webb will take a quick drive to Morehead, Kentucky the next day to take on the Morehead State Eagles. The Eagles finished second in the Ohio Valley Conference with a 21-10 record and qualified for the women's NIT. The London Bulldogs will then return to Paul Porter Arena for a 5-game homestand, starting with American Conference member UCF on November 17th. The Knights finished 21-12 last season and advanced to the second round of the women's NIT. On their way to a 21-12 record, the Knights also knocked off the Bulldogs in Orlando 66-52 last season, but Gardner-Webb shot 41% from three during the contest. Gardner-Webb will then welcome Furman to Paul Porter Arena on November 20th for a rematch of last year's contest, an 84-62 win for the Paladins. After a quick break for Thanksgiving, the Dogs will take on NAIA rival MONTREAT College on November 25th. The Cavaliers would fall by a score of 92-45 in Bowling Springs last season, as 4 running Bulldogs will score in double digits, led by 14 points from Savannah Flintovich. The Dogs will then host their first Education Day matchup of the year on November 28th at 11 a.m. against USC Upstate. The Bulldogs knocked off the Spartans 57-53 in Spartanburg last season, outscoring Upstate 24-10 in the second half. Gardner-Webb returns to the road for a rivalry showdown with Wofford College on December 5th. The Terriers knocked off the Bulldogs 75-66 last season and held Gardner-Webb to just 41.5% shooting from the field during the entire game. After a break for exams, Gardner-Webb will travel to Davidson College for an early morning showdown with the Wildcats on December 15th at 11:30 a.m. Davidson finished 6-23 last season, but had an 82-72 win over current Big South member High Point. The team will then travel to Emmitsburg, Maryland for a matchup with Mount St. Mary's of the Northeastern Conference on December 17th. The Mountaineers finished 12-18 last season and will play NCAA powerhouses Notre Dame and Maryland this year. The Dogs will take a break for Christmas and then return home to face Western Carolina on December 28th. Last season, the Running Bulldogs knocked off the Catamounts in Cullowhee on a nationally televised game by a score of 68-60. Tierra Huntsman will lead the Dogs with 24 points. Gardner-Webb plays their final non-conference game on December 30th against Division II member Converse College. The Running Bulldogs knocked off the Valkyries 68-38 at home last season and held Converse to 23% shooting. Coach Reeves believes the challenging non-conference schedule will help his team once they reach conference play.
I try to schedule teams pre-conference that I feel are better than our conference, or the best teams in our conference. So that's helped us in the past, but what we really need to do is just stay healthy. That's the biggest thing, because 2 years ago we beat North Carolina when they were ranked in top 25, but we just didn't stay healthy. We didn't have enough depth once we got to the conference tournament, and that's all the key is winning the conference tournament.
The Running Bulldogs will play their first conference game on the road on January 2nd as they will travel to High Point University. They will return home for their first home conference matchup on January 6th against Radford in a rematch of a Big South Conference tournament matchup. Radford was also voted to win the Big South Women's Championship this year at the Big South Media Days. Other notable conference matchups include January 20th at home against Charleston Southern, where Coach Reeves will coach his 250th Big South contest. There will also be another Education Day matchup on February 13th at 11 a.m. against Longwood. And finally, the Running Bulldogs home contest against High Point on February 24th will be nationally televised on ESPN3.